And then, great. So today is an alumni panel, and we have 3 alumni from different cohorts here today. And the goal of today's presentation is just to talk about networking and what it is, what it really takes to make friends and connect with people. You'll find that sometimes when you network, it'll be really deliberate. Like you're at an event, you meet someone, hi, I'm Soraya, oh hi, I'm Megan, can I have your business card? Sure. Maybe we'll get together for lunch. Like that's probably like really direct networking. Whereas otherwise you may make connections through like a friend and you hang out with Andre a bunch of times because you know his friend Mike, and suddenly Andre tells you about his job and you're like, oh, I want to work there, and you chat more, and like that relationship turns into job opportunities. So I wanted to just bring in 3 alumni just to talk about how networking may have led to their current job or how they may have applied networking throughout their career since they graduated. So I think what we'll do is, if you guys just each want to, we'll go one at a time and we'll start with Tim. If you just want to say what class you enrolled in and you took, and then when that was, where you currently work, and just like how you found your job. And I know that some of you guys have actually had a couple different jobs since then, which is awesome. I'd love to hear like how that happened, how you found your next position, etc. So we'll have you guys each tell your story, and then we'll open it up for questions. So just be listening, thinking about anything that you're like, whoa, how did you do that? Or was that awkward? Like any kind of question you want to ask. And don't worry about if you don't have anything like directly related to networking. I just want to like be able to have people, understand what it's been like meeting other devs in the industry, and even interacting with your coworkers, and how you guys have been able to build your careers from the point that you finished. I think, Tim, you're the most recent graduate out of the 3 of you. Do you think you finished like a year ago? Is that right?
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, why don't we go first?
Well, my name's Tim Chen. I went through the full stack Python course about a year ago, April 2015. Yeah. So after I graduated, like I kind of, struggled a little bit trying to find work. So like, I just started, doing stuff for free for people. I approached them like, well, we can't pay you. I was like, sure, I'll do whatever. So I picked up this internship working for a startup called Joel down here in Provo. And I stuck with them for 3 months, and they didn't care. It was pretty chill. So I came and go when I wanted. I wasn't locked in because I wasn't getting paid. So like, and it's great where I could still continue to code, and if I had questions, there are resources right there. Also, at the same time, when the days and nights I'm gonna go climbing, I can just take off and like, I'll be back tomorrow. But after that, I picked up a gig down in Salem, where I was doing some PHP work for them, and then I stuck around there for about 4 months, and I realized it wasn't for me because I was doing a lot more customer service than I was coding. And I left there and went to that's my current place of employment now, Park City, called G-Commerce Solutions, where I do a lot of analytics implementation and custom coding for just general analytics tracking. But yeah, that's it.
And how did you find that job in Salem? How did you find that job? So you're working with Joel as an intern. Was Salem like a paid position then?
No, Salem was one of those like throwaways where like, because it's Salem, it's like down, I must go down there anyway. So I applied, and then like they asked me after 3 interviews, they took me out to dinner and everything. I was like, okay, whatever. So the whole time, I was like, I really don't want to come down here. But, I had a free dinner coming. Why not, So I went through dinner and everything, and they were like, we want to make you an offer, so what would it take for us to bring you on? So it was like, okay, I'm just going to throw something big out there. And they were like, okay, well, we'll talk about it, and then we'll get in contact with me the next day. So like, I came back the next day, and they, met my number. It was like, sure, why not?
Did you find them like through a job listing, or
What's that?
how did you find that?
Yeah, I found them on Indeed.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
You just like applied. Cool.
Salem, Utah.
Yeah.
It's a great place.
He's from Salem.
EMC right now. And I graduated 2 years ago. I was in the second cohort at Coding Campus. And they're just getting it figured out. So it was great. But my first job was here at Veritage. And I worked here for, what was it, like
a year.
Yeah, it was like a year. It was like a year, and then, which my experience working, there's a part of it, Brief 3, my experience with Agile and Scrum was what got me my job at EMC because they wanted to work in a more agile work environment, even though we still did waterfall in sprints. But, yeah, so I got my job at EMC because I think the best thing that you can do, getting your first job, like I think to kind of illustrate it, is really hard. The first job is always the hardest, and it's a big leap. I'm not gonna lie, and I was fortunate that I got hired here at Varsity, so I got that experience under my belt. I know that some people are not as fortunate, and it takes a while. But I was involved a lot in user groups. I went to like Scrum development, Angular. I hosted the Spring users group that just got started up. I got into the Java users group, and I meet a lot of people. And I know a lot of people. Like I just went to NDConf and ran into a bunch of people that are like, "Hey, I know you," and I'm like, "Yeah." So it was cool to like know people in the community. And I think that you'll find that the tech community in Utah is actually very small, and so you have to be very careful about your reputation and make sure that you always give it your best because word travels fast. But my opportunity at EMC opened up because one of Sage, who is in my department now, posted, she says EMC's hiring all levels, and so I gave her my resume, and then she's like, hey, and they called me the next day, set up an interview for 3 days later, and I was terrified because I was like, if I have to whiteboard, I'm not going to be able to do it. It's crazy. But I think that you just need to like lean into those opportunities, even if you're scared. So I was studying. I thought I was applying for a front end position because they were just It was weird how they hired everyone, but they hired the entire department for associate developers, and so we all thought we were going in for different positions. But I went into a front end one, and I ended up talking about REST the whole time. In my experience with that and Agile, and ended up on the microservices team. Well, we're now the cloud native integration team, so we do small services, usually internal applications, and just build out APIs for whatever people need, and we have access to all the data within EMC. So I guess that's kind of.
And you said someone posted the job for EMC?
Development.
Development. Okay, so that's like a local user group.
Yep.
On their Facebook page? Is that
They just
right?
posted it on the Facebook page.
Cool.
But yeah, I think that you find a lot of stuff, even within EMC, I find a lot of it's word of mouth. Like, as soon as there's a job, they say, hey, do you guys know any good developers that you recommend for this position? So it's really good to know people. And I'm actually doing contract work on the side for a startup called VidAngel, and I found out about that one through LinkedIn. And they reached out to me because of my humanities background. So it is good to have a diverse background sometimes. So, but I think that keeping your LinkedIn up and your user group is really beneficial. At least it has been for me. So
it's awesome. I know the guys at VidAngel.
yeah.
Alex.
Yeah, so I graduated in like 2014, December 2014, I think. I did the full stack. It was like Python, Django, Angular. And so I actually did a lot of networking to get my first job, and I actually got in with the company that I started working for. So I started in sales with them, and that job I actually got through my cousin because he knew the founders. And I started working, it was called Room Choice / Lift Media. The Room Choice is a student housing software that they're building, and then Lift Media is owned by them as kind of a custom development shop. So when I wanted to get into development, I sat down with my boss and kind of told him what I wanted to do. And we had to talk about it, and they had a development team, and they were interested in having me move over. So as soon as I was done, I started working with the development team there. So it's always a good option to work with people you know or already. Currently, my wife is going to NYU in the fall for graduate school, so we're moving to New York, and I've been in the process of getting a new job. I actually just accepted an offer today, but it's been a lot harder because I don't know anyone in New York, and I wish I could have networked a little more. It's been difficult. So the first job, I mean, I just talked to the company that I work for, got a development job. This time I had to apply to probably over 100 companies to get this one job, just because it's harder to it's kind of harder to show who you are without a connection. If there's someone who can vouch for you, it's going to be a lot easier. But even this time when I was working out, getting a job in New York, I feel like I kind of used some networking skills in that, like the people that I got an offer from, I spent a lot of time with them, interviews, I was very friendly, and the guy who's going to be my new manager, we're on pretty good terms now. He's even giving me some coding advice just because I kind of developed that relationship with him, and I think that helps a lot. And also I found that while I was looking, that it helped to get on the Angel list. Have you guys heard of that? They're actually a group of startups, and they're constantly looking for development help. But it's a place where you can kind of network and get to know different people in the field, find out more about them.
Cool. So how do you get on the angel list?
You can just sign up, I think.
Okay.
It's just
Yeah, it's angel.co, I think. This is a huge database of all kinds of different startups. People log on to go and build out their profile for their startup. It's a way to syndicate a funding round. So there's always startups on there that are hiring, that are posting job recs, they're trying to raise capital. So you can see where they're at. If you want to go to a really early stage startup, there's like 3 people in a garage.
Yeah.
You want to go to one to look further on. But you can find almost infinite amount of companies you might need help. And they're all on a text base.
Yeah, they actually, I don't know how new it is, but they have like a place where you can submit a profile about yourself, and like a career section where people actually are like actively looking for developers on it.
Nice.
And this is like networking right here. Some of you didn't know about that. Now we do because we talked to Alex. So, any questions for any of these graduates?
I think I heard once that someone they work with a different language when they started learning.
I do Java. I don't know.
I do JavaScript. You know,
So how was the transition like going from language to language?
it's as long as you understand how, like the standard numbers, like groups and everything, like it's pretty easy to pick up.
Java was challenging for me. Just because Java helped me a lot now. I'm a better programmer because I know Java, and because Python does a lot of magic for you, and Java you have to write it all out. So it was helpful for me, but at first I had no idea. I'm like, why do I need to write this out, and why is this not taken care of? So it was kind of a paradigm shift. But I think it depends on the company, but I had a project, I'm with a massive company, right? We have 86,000 employees right now, and we'll have 150,000 soon. But I have like the first month or two where they let me just do a sample project. Right, here, your job right now is to learn Java, and you have to build an address book. Go. So, yeah. So it's nice because with the larger companies, they have the resources to kind of waste money, I feel, for a while. They just learn that, oh no, you're going to get to a good point. So dedicate this time to learn everything you can, and now it's easier.
I'm kind of on the other end where I work at a custom development shop, and had to learn a few different things that I haven't known. And we're so small that sometimes it'll just kind of get like, here's the project, figure it out. And I think that just having a background in coding just helps a lot. And then for help, I mean, you can always go to Stack Overflow or read the docs. You always want to read the docs.
I'll throw something in like unsolicited. So when Breana was here at Varsity, we made it extra hard on her because we didn't just make her learn one thing. She ended up learning like 4 different things. So if you're going to switch, like if you gotta learn something new, like pick it up, it's fine. I would assume, and running in a second, this should not, but like I would assume it'd be easier to stick in one. If you're going to switch, to do that for periods, you can get start to feel productive at it. When she was here, we had her on.
I went from learning Angular and Django to straight up JavaScript / JavaScript that was compiled into Java to Django CMS
In a
to
stupid framework.
like it was just like a lot of changes. And so when I went, I think when I went to EMC, I was just like, I don't know, I understand. And I'm like, I understand how to do it. Like, I understand the concept. I understand like Django and REST, but yeah. So but now with having done Java for the last year, I feel like I could pick up anything, right? Like they just threw Node at me. They're like, hey, pick up Node, and I'm like, okay, cool, yeah. I'll just look at the docs. I can do this. How do I do this Mongo invert? I don't know. So it's a lot easier.
And remember too, so you guys learned a lot of stuff in class, and you learned a lot of stuff in your job, and as you continue like custom dev shop, very sage, and then like having another place where they just threw lots of stuff at you, you're going to keep learning and growing. So like to Breana's point, she mentioned like Python does a lot of magic for you. That's on purpose. That's why we used to teach that, was because you didn't have to dig into all of the nitty gritty, and so for a really fast 3-month period, you can pick up as much as possible. And now as she's growing in her career, she continues to go deeper and learn more and more.
And I talked to some developers, and a lot of them say the best thing to do is to learn Python first and then go into Java. A lot of people feel like that's a great thing to do because it gives you a great introduction, and then you go deeper and then
JavaScript is similar. Like this is a full stack JavaScript class. You can get in. It's a very advanced skill, but then you can end up doing things like specific node work, or backend, Ember, Meteor, like Angular, React. There's a million places you could go and dig way deeper as you progress.
and everyone needs JavaScript.
Yeah.
Like I do Angular at my job, even though I'm on the back end team. So
All I know too, sorry, still time for a bit. Also, as you're learning, try to figure out try to look at your personality a little bit and like what you like to do. All three of them have very different types of jobs now from each other. Right? Like custom dev shop, something like hers is going to be lots of different projects with lots of learning curve. You have to figure things out all the time. You're never going to really settle into like this is what I do and just rock at it. You'll always be figuring something out and sucking at it to some extent. At a big company where you've got like a whole team around you, you've got tons of resources, you can learn and grow, and you can really rock at something. And you get cool opportunities to do things at a scale you wouldn't at a smaller company. So some people really like the small, like always something new, wearing different hats, kind of frantic. Some people like the more structured, tons of resources and great opportunities. There's pros and cons to both. And Tim's been in all kinds of different roles throughout there as well, like all the way from startup to more solid small business. Just, I would say, maybe you pepper them with questions even now or later about how they settled in, if that's the type of they like, and think about that yourself too as you start looking.
and just so you know, though, at larger companies they do have teams that may not necessarily pigeonhole you, right? Because my team is constantly changing, and we can choose whatever language we want based on what we feel the project needs. And we can change our database. Like I've been MySQL, Postgres, MongoDB. Like we switch up databases depending on the project. So.
Imagine how many lines of code exist like in the EMC. Like how many billions of lines of code. There's lots of things you can do.
I think Overstock does that too, because we went and visited Overstock with the last class, and they talked about how like if you can convince us why that's a framework worth using on your project, then go do it. So yeah, that's cool that like they're not the only company, because you usually think big company are going to do the same thing.
And other teams do, right? Like there were people that were hired with me, and they went to EMC.com and EMC store, and they are strictly JavaScript, and they do not change, and it is like they're stuck in that place, and I'm like, I'm glad I'm not.
So yeah. Okay, cool. So that does exist if you like
It does exist. You just have to make sure you end up on the right team within a corporation.
Any other questions.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, what sort of, like, what of the work that you did while you were in boot camp or sort of immediately afterwards or, you know, sort of adjacent to it, what stuff were employers looking at, what were they impressed with, that sort of stuff? Like as far, like, did you have any, like, you must have had some portfolio built by the time you ended your tenure here. What of those projects would you say employers tend to focus on?
So, yeah, the employers always like to be able to see some stuff. I can't remember back really right to when I graduated, but just most recently when I was looking for jobs. So I'm actually moving into a position at a large company where I'm going to be doing like all front end. And I had kind of a lot of random projects that I've been doing out of my custom development shop. So sometimes I look at it and be like, wow, you got kind of a lot going on. And I think it's important to be able to talk through projects and what you did on them, because that helped me a lot. A lot of the companies, maybe they weren't, that I just spoke to, weren't super interested in like the project itself or exactly what technology I use, but they want to see that you can think through things with like a developer's mindset, or that maybe you don't know the technology that they use, but you can figure it out. And so, like when you're explaining your projects, explain what was cool about it, kind of how you think it could move into the other one. Sometimes I just told them that like this project was really cool to me because, so I had a project where I was working in like the Shopify backend, and it's like a Ruby based language, which I had never ever even seen before. And like I like to explain that to them that I'm proud of this project because it's something that I didn't know that I figured out and was able to work it out. So just talk to them through why it's a cool project. It helps a lot.
I would say too that it's less about what you know and showing people that you're passionate and that you're willing to learn. And I think that that's what they care about most, because they can teach you anything, but if you're not passionate and if you want to go there, then you never really going to do well in company. And that's been my experience for the contract position I have, my current position. It's all been about, are you passionate? Do you have that fire in your belly? And that's what a lot of people want, somebody that has that in the process. But having those projects is the best way to say, hey, or saying, I went to boot camp because I was there, I think is really helpful, right? Just because you're saying, I took my own initiative and I did this project because it was really important to me. So.
Well, I kind of went on Udemy, just bought a bunch of tutorial courses, okay, and just built a bunch of my projects around that, like just going through those tutorials so I could get a better understanding. Threw it onto my GitHub. The only thing I actually built was like a Python-based scraper that does a scraper of UtahGunExchange.com to annotate new items, so that way it'll let me know exactly, like if I'm looking for an optic, a specific kind, I'll just script the whole site, identify that keyword, and then it'll let me know exactly, when I was supposed to up, so I can call that guy up. But that was the only project that I created that was separate from all the tutorial courses, but I had like 30-something projects that were completed on my GitHub. And I really don't, we don't have to explain much. People were just like, well, tell me about this. Well, it does that. Yeah. And that was it. Like, well, that's pretty cool. So yeah, I pretty much didn't go into anything where they didn't ask me questions about. So I wouldn't shoot myself in the foot, But I think I only have one company actually asked me like why I did certain things that I did. It was like, well, that was based on a tutorial, so I went through that. But the majority of the time, it's just, they just want to see what your program does and what you created. And as long as you guide them through and you talk it up, they're just, they're just slightly more impressed about it. Yeah.
questions.
When do you guys graduate?
July 22nd.
Probably 26 though.
Yeah, it's probably 26.
Oh, really?
2 extra days.
Oh, yeah.
Do you guys have ideas of companies right now that you're interested in, or?
I know I want a bigger company. Other than that, not really. I've been searching. And the only thing I found was like in Austin, Texas right now.
Yeah, I just want health insurance because I turned 26 in April.
Yeah.
It's the one hole.
Yeah, that's something that actually, in your guys' experience, do larger companies offer more benefits or smaller companies offer more benefits? For sure.
Larger.
Larger.
I get like if I told you my benefits, it's like out of control. I get
Don't!
three days off to give back to the community. I get 10 days of 10 of vacation, 5 personal. Plus I can work remote if I want to. I have full medical, full dental. My deductible on my medical is $150.
What?
Yeah, it's like.
Are they hiring?
They'll hire in August, but Mosey is actually probably a good way. I know Alex Lyman just got hired by Mosey, and I don't really know what's going on because they're kind of operated separate, but come July we're going to be in the same building. Our building will have a cafeteria with full-on chefs, we'll have fitness classes, we'll have we get one-to-one matching on our 401k, we have.
For how much? Up to how much?
6% of your salary.
What?
Yeah. So.
Alright, I'm buying. Stop selling the money.
Yeah, so we have everything you could think of, and we have 4 weeks off for maternity leave, plus another 12 for
If you guys weren't doing the math, just the first days off, she said, for like volunteering because you're sick and because you feel like it, adds up to almost a full month.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, no, you get like and we have 3 holidays we get to choose in addition to the holidays they give you, which are like 11.
Oh, that's
you get
awesome.
to choose your own holidays.
Some Greek Orthodox, we never get Greek Orthodox holidays.
So like EMC is really known. They're the number 18 best place to work globally. So.
Okay.
Well, eventually I want to remote work, so.
That's pretty dope.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. I got super excited when I heard about benefits because they have all some benefits.
I like lying down now. That's such a great sunshine for me. Just knowing that exists in the world still.
So what does it take to get a job there? Like, what do you have
So
to do?
the problem with EMC right now is we're going through the merger with Dell.
Oh.
That's our biggest problem, and so everything is on freeze. Like at least within our team and our department, we can't hire until after the merger day 1, which has now been moved to August 1st. And after that, they'll probably be hiring like crazy because there's a bunch of openings, but they can't fill them because of the freeze. But I know for whatever reason, DPC, Data Protection Cloud, or Mosey, they're hiring, which I didn't know until Alex Lyman got.
And Mosey's part of the EMC company.
Yeah, so you'll get all the benefits. Another company I would look into that's actually, you get all the same benefits as EMC, but it's a startup, is Pivotal. So they might be a good one to look for. Just because you have the startup feel and they do really cool stuff. They're building Spring as a framework for Java, and they do a lot of. That's one of my places where I'm like, eventually I think I might want to go there.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's good. Cool. And have a good plan too, because you know what you're working towards.
Yeah, there's a lot of places. They have VMware, they have Pivotal. There's a lot of the Federation, and I guess Alumni.
I'm very excited to be moving to benefits, but smart companies, some people like it better too because the benefits usually aren't as good, but a lot of times it's very flexible when you work. Like currently I'm at a very small one and like if I want to take a day off, I can take a day off and just have to get my work done, you know? And yeah, so that's nice, you can work remotely a lot. So it kind of depends on what your personality is.
Yeah, it's true. I would say like if health insurance is like really important to you, then you want the benefits. But if you're okay like paying a little extra for health insurance, so far that's been like the biggest trade-off for me when I'm looking at small versus big companies. And then also what kind of work you like. Bigger companies have been around for a while, so they often have a little bit more organization, more different, like, you know, they've run into all the different problems you possibly can as an employee, so there's usually like a process for that problem. New company, they often haven't, you know, they're small, they haven't had so many, so it's like, oh, this happened, what do we do now? I don't know, what should we do? We'll figure it out. So that depends on your personality. If you enjoy that, cool. If that's just hard for you, or you just don't like it, you want things to have a plan, then you might not like a small company.
And big companies, you'll run into a lot of red tape with things sometimes, which can be really frustrating. Like, for example, we have an API gateway that we have to email. Don't ask me why, like, this is so antiquated and it's embarrassing, but we have to send a Word doc for them to configure the API gateway to be able to manage users for our application. And sometimes it takes us up to 2 weeks, and it's so frustrating because we could get it done in like 10 minutes, but we have to send this like Word doc and say, hey, middleware team, can you please configure this for us? And then they send us back our API key and stuff like that. Just like there's a lot of that when you get in a bigger company, because they do have legal and all this, like, we're in subversion because we had to get approved, and it took us 5 months to get it approved for our team. So there is stuff like that you, if you're okay with, great. If not, just know that there are things that are a lot slower. So.
Yeah.
You may find you're not so close to that when you have a month up in your.
It's true, yeah.
I'm
like, okay, fine, I'll wait. So.
Yeah. And then there's always middle-sized companies that are kind of a hybrid of both, right? Like, I don't know, Workfront would probably be one of those companies. There's a lot of them, that you could just get kind of the structure, benefits, and
Entrada is kind of like that. My husband started working for Entrada, and they're like 800 employees right now, so they're not huge, but they're not small. So they have lots of different similarities and differences. Any other questions?
What do you think is the most effective way to like get into the community more? Like, I'm not a super assertive person, but I kind of want to get into the community as well, to the network and stuff. So, how did you do that?
Just show up to these group events and talk to people, see just do events, or even just reach out to a lot of the smaller startups. A lot of them advertise on like Craigslist or whatever. They're not going to get paid much, but the thing is, if you're not working, you might as well do something. You really don't have much to lose unless you're just planning on sleeping the whole time until you find a job. So yeah, so you might as well keep skills you use and just kind of volunteer your time until something lands in your lap. Because then you're not really committed to anything. Because first of all, they're not paying you. So you go in, your job is just to learn as much as you can. You have questions, you ask. Yeah? Okay.
I think the other thing you can do is volunteering is huge. I really think that opens a lot of doors for you. So it's opened a lot of doors for me. I volunteered for Mozilla. They put me down to Mexico twice. I think part of their interest in the AMC was also because I volunteered for open source. So if you do anything with open source, that's huge for a lot of companies. They really like that. And you meet a lot of people. But I find that when I help people, that somehow eventually it comes back to me, and I have a door open because I help somebody else out. So I think not only going there, but seeing how you can help other people in the community.
How do you find those kind of opportunities to volunteer?
But just by networking, right? By talking to people, like, there's a lot of things, like you can do open source for Salt Stack, you can do, I know the open source conference is coming up, that Victor opens on, so.
You guys will be going to that. Instead of a field trip this year, you guys are going to go to Open West in July. So instead of going to different companies, you're going to go, and there'll be tons of companies there, and go to their classes.
Yeah, that's great fun.
And what's cool about doing volunteer work is that most people don't want to do it, and so you get lots of, like, for example, I am the project lead for localization of Firefox for Android. And why do I have that? Because nobody else is really doing anything. So I do like half an hour a week, and suddenly people are like, oh, you do this for this company? But really there's not a lot of people doing stuff, and so suddenly they'll be like, hey, you did a really good job on this project. Do you want to lead out this one? And then you have that on your resume, and it's a really good resume flavor. So don't know, maybe that's what that means.
Yeah. I mean, like, just talk to people and ask them if they need help with anything. You know, and their number one thing is like, well, we can't pay you. It's like, I mean,
Along with that, just try and find something that you're really passionate about and that you like, because then you'll start doing things just on the side just because it's fun, and then you'll find people that do the same thing, and you'll want to work together on projects.
And the more stuff you work on, I actually started volunteering because of Breana, because we're good friends and we both volunteer for Mozilla, and she's done more with Mozilla than me. But then I got involved with GDI, and so through that you meet more people. And so I think I met Allison through you and Mark Anthony, and then Allison said, I'm starting a Provo chapter, want to be on our team? And like, that's just how it happened, and that's networking happening. So I mean, keep volunteering at those events and meet more people. I volunteered, I knew Allison, which got me involved with Provo Women's Day, so I got to speak about technology there. And then I met Courtney Hendrick, who runs the Rooftop Concert Series, and so that's another connection that I've been wanting to do more stuff with too, and now we talk to each other and have a relationship. So again, it's just volunteering, getting out there, continuing to give yourself, and then meet more people and make more connections. So, yeah. Any other questions? Sweet.
It really is a ton about just showing up. Like, it's development industry is kind of the stereotype of developers not showing up talking to people. To be introverted. It's not always true, but because of this stereotype, if you can issue that and just show up and try, like, maybe be able to lead a user group really quickly, or you lead an open source project, it's because you wouldn't try. Right? Like, people in the class, we've had some people that have gone on to be very successful because they tried to start a company. Like, a couple of them worked, a couple of them didn't, but they went on and tried, and so people were like, whoa, this person's a baller. Like, I would hire them as soon as they're available. Right? Whether it's open source, or a user group, or a community, or a company. Really, if you just get out there and give it a shot, you're gonna get 10 times more back than you put out. So it's totally worth it. Can't say
I recognize it's a long-term process, not immediate results too, because if you go in there thinking like, oh, I'm gonna go to 2 meetups and then suddenly have an opportunity, it may take a while, but as long as you're consistent and you keep showing up, then you'll be at the front of people's minds, right? When they're like, hey, we're looking for somebody, then they'll be like, oh yeah, I met that guy at that user group. What was his name? And then that's how things happen, right?
Well, yeah, I just want to show that. And that's again why I'm having this presentation as like our third one, because now is like the best time to start. You guys are only 1/3 through the class. You have plenty of time to, it might be that you might not make that final connection until week 12, but you're not going to get to that connection unless you start now. And like we're at week 5 right now.
What exactly is a user group?
Yeah. Do you guys want to?
If you go to meetup.com, that's where like a lot of the user groups are. But they just meet usually monthly, and each one has one like we're the 3rd Thursday every month or whatever. So they have them for everything you could imagine, right? There's a Node.js one, there's Java, there's Spring, there's Angular, there's 2 Angular.
So they're the meetups then.
Yeah.
And the users.
What's another meetup? There's
Yeah. User group is just another
Yeah. I think user group's more like a dev term, and then now meetup is not popular, it's not a big meetup. But basically, we're all Node users, and so we get together to nerd out about Node. As users, yeah. Use together.
I'm on free food, so.
Yes,
Yeah.
and t-shirts,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Let's get about food.
The Angular meetups always have good food. Those ones are great.
Which one do you think?
And just a reminder too, you guys have a list. I've already compiled a list.
Are there
All
any
of
that
them.
you don't need a car to get to?
There are some in Utah. Yes, actually, Girl Develop It is going to be meeting here for the 3rd Thursday, I think, of every month for a hack night. And then you can also, go to the events, meet people, and connect for, carpools. If you need a carpool, like, post it in the V School thing, and we'll see.
that happens a ton.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
and we can help you get there too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are they like all on Thursday? Because I keep hearing on Thursday. It's the one day I have class.
Wednesdays, yeah.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are pretty much
Yeah.
Okay.
And this list here, these are not all of them. I was looking at this with Jack last week, and there are a whole bunch that that have just popped up. So anyway, this list, just so you guys know, is right here. It's pinned in the career prep channel at the bottom.
One that I really liked too is the Utah, the self-craftsmanship one. Is a
Oh,
really
yeah.
good one to go to as a beginner, just because they have a very inviting feel and they make you get out of your comfort zone a lot of times. So they'll have you do like mock programming, or you have like the first hour you go and you discuss a book that everyone's reading, and then they'll have some type of activity where you either pair up or you get in a group and you do some type of whatever they have planned. But it is always a code card, so you're going to go through this exercise and try to solve it, but it's very hands-on and you work. There's a lot of senior developers there, so I would recommend going there. I really liked it.
The cool thing about Meetup too, so you can sign up, it's free. I mean, you just sign up, and you can find meetups. You just type in what you're looking for. Like if you're like, I wonder if there's more JavaScript stuff than are on the list. And here are a whole bunch. There's JavaScript game night. I don't know if they're like playing JavaScript games or they just like JavaScript and they game together. But anyway, Provo.js, here's one that's in Provo. And the nice thing about that too is you can go to these events, you can see who RSVP'd. And this is a great tool for networking. Like I can go here and be like, oh yeah, I went to that forum and there was this guy there that was super cool. Like I want to connect with him again. Here, oh yeah, his name is Kurt, sweet. And I can send Kurt a message if I want to, depending on like their privacy settings. But there's different ways that you can try to connect or remember who that person was so you can look for them next time or something. I don't know, you had a great conversation. Or you could even post at the end of the group. I'm not logged in right now, but you'll be able to say like, hey, I met this guy named Kurt, wanted to go lunch and talk some more about what we're saying. These tools are awesome. Like these didn't exist before. It was really just word of mouth and big giant Google email lists, which those still exist too, but these make it a lot easier on personal.
And really just, you're going to feel, the more, so if you can get out of your own way and get out of your comfort zone and be proactive and go meet people, you will likely be more that, like, if you're making a point to do that, you will do better because you will be more than the average person who's just showing up. So when I said carpool, like, I didn't need to carpool one time, but there was a message going around about like a carpool happening. I was like, well, that'd be like a sweet 30 minutes. I can just get to know everyone. So I was like, yeah, I'll carpool. So I totally jumped down, right? And it was a cool chance to actually just chat with everybody, like, before you're talking tech, just hear where everyone's from, what they're doing, what they're like. I actually know those people now, right? Like, if I hope to hire them or get hired by them at some point, I need to actually know them, right? Like, it can't just be someone I shook hands with one time. It's one event. So, go with friends with people. Like, if you have offered a carpool there, say like, hey, I'm headed up there, anybody need a ride? You really appreciate that. Then you've gone with service for someone and have a real connection. It sounds silly. A lot of times we focus on like all of the really important things like LinkedIn and stuff like that, but just go give people a ride, go grab lunch with people, like just go hang out and have some fun, and they enjoy hanging out with you. They're gonna try and find opportunities to hang out with you more and more. Maybe some of that might be while they're paying you to be there.
Yeah. So, yeah, and really, really rarely are you gonna find a job at a job fair. That is actually how I got my job. I don't know how that happened, but it did. But it's very, very rare. Like, these guys did not find their jobs at job fairs. They did not find their jobs when we brought people in to meet them at the end of the class. That's more really for your practice than to get a job with any of those recruiters. I mean, it could happen, but I found that it actually doesn't happen. It's more just practice for you guys. Any other final questions?
Can I add you guys on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'll put their names in Slack so you guys can find them.
Something I just want to one of the harsh realities, a lot of companies, especially mid to large companies, will kind of look down on people that don't have a CS degree sometimes, but doors will be open for other backgrounds. The one thing I have noticed though, having a lot of friends that come from different boot camps, working to Mountain, Point Labs, and just watching all of our different progress, it's just a matter of time. So don't give up, because the people that give up, just make sure that, like Tim said, like even if you have to do stuff for free, do it and keep at it, because eventually the doors will be open. I know one of my friends, she was super disappointed because she got hired and she was just like copy pasting HTML and CSS, and she's like, are you kidding me? What am I gonna do? But she kept looking and she kept doing stuff on the site, and eventually she works at Lindio now. So I would stress to make sure that whether it takes a month to get that first job or it takes a year and a half, I don't know, keep at it, because the first job is the hardest, and then after you've been at it for like a year, and then just I don't know. I get recruiters all the time that are like, hey, I have this job, or like friends, and it's a lot easier. But the first job is so hard, and it can be really discouraging. But the door will open. So.
Were you kidding about Craigslist?
I was like,
No.
Craigslist. A lot of like smaller.
Freelance.
Yeah, like so a lot of people go on Craigslist because they're starting like a basement operation. They have like 3 people that just want to bring someone else on, but they only pay like
$5.
$5 an hour. Or
I
like,
have till April.
yeah,
So.
or just in food, like Joel, like it's just like we can't pay you, but you can have as much food as you want. So, I just show up around lunch, spend my 3-4 hours in there. I'll munch on stuff while I'm going through whatever assignments they give me. And
I'm
then,
noticing
like,
a theme here.
I gotta get something out of it.
No, but it's no joke. And
Yeah.
like at a big company, their job is to set up filters, right? Like EMC doesn't lack for people applying there, right?
Yeah.
Because they treat people really, really well and have awesome benefits, and all the things you hear they're so awesome. It makes everybody who wants to go and apply there, right? So they don't lack for that. So they have to set up filters to like screen
They take out
through
anyone that doesn't have a bachelor's degree. So, but I mean, but they're always in. There are people that can have, but you have to know someone inside. But
Right.
they're,
The more things you can do, like, imagine this, if you show up and say, hi, I can code, I went to this boot camp, you should hire me, right? Like, is that terribly convincing? Yeah, not really, right? And so if they have to filter through hundreds of applicants who have said, hey, I have a CS degree from whatever school, and I've been doing this for at least 4 years while I was in school, that's hard to compete with if you're not selling yourself. Right? So when you go do open source projects, or when you have worked with people that already are employed there, and they also like, oh no, I went to the user group with her, like she was awesome, and she was always helping out, like she knows her stuff, or oh, I did this open source thing with her before, I talked to them at Open West, like we hung out for like 20 minutes after the presentation, like that guy's smart. Those things trump any kind of CS degree or other stuff. You have to have those. You have to go and be out there and talk to people. You have to do projects for $5, or even if it's $1,000, like it doesn't mean you have to be starving and dying. Right? Like that's not the point of it. The point is just go hustle, go get some work under your belt. Like they want to see you have experience. I remember like Breana and I had that conversation where she was hired here, like basically immediately after the class. And then she started, like, once she was here for a few months, then all of a sudden, like, the magic of LinkedIn happens, and people are saying, like, hey, come work for us. As soon as she had, like, employed by some other legitimate entity as a developer, you magically qualify in their book, right? So all these other filters they have, like, because you have been vouched for by a company. So if you've got if you do contract work, it doesn't matter if that's because that's what you thought in the industry. Sweet, I build websites for people, great. I built this web app for the startup, or I started a company and it failed. So what? Like now you have tons of work, and now you have legitimacy and credibility. That's what they're grasping for. They want you if you can do good work for them. They want you to go and make them more money. You just have to show them how you can do it.
also, don't be afraid to start conversations because you feel like you don't know stuff. One thing that I learned starting at EMC is that there is value to having the title associate. Because people say, oh, you're just starting out, let me help you. So be sure that you capitalize on that for the first few years, because people are like, oh, you just started out, let me help. And so I wouldn't try to I'm going to become a senior developer right away, because that can be, as soon as you're a senior developer, developer, then it's like, okay, deliver. Now, you know your stuff, so just make sure that you take advantage and you start conversations and like, hey, I'm a junior developer, I'm learning this. And then what do you know about it? And people they'll want to help you. So just make sure that you don't see it as a disadvantage because it actually is an advantage. It will help you a lot.
Any other final questions? Okay. So, thank you guys so much for coming today. I posted all their names in the career prep channel, so feel free to add them on LinkedIn. It's great work. Asking if that was okay. Always good too, not just to like be polite, but when they're like, cool, there's some people that are going to be adding me, I will accept them. Instead of like, who's this person? So yeah, thanks so much again. And then yeah, I see that some of you guys have already sent me your LinkedIn URLs. Awesome. If you haven't yet, don't forget to do that by the end of today. There's no big assignment for this week, but it would be in your best interest to check out meetup.com or to check out this meetup user list. I posted it again. And see what's out there. That's a great way to get started. There are other ways to network too. Alex, he had a lot of great personal connections already. So I know that some of you guys do already. Start, reaching out, reconnecting with those people. Tell them how you're doing in the class. And then next Wednesday, we'll be having a presentation on automating the job search with Tanner Crochet. And so that actually will be really helpful. I know some of you guys have been having questions about like, how do I find these jobs? If you're struggling, he'll actually have some great tips for that. But yeah, so that's everything. Also too, ask for, if you need a ride to meetups and stuff, ask for rides on Slack, because we are more than happy to get you there. We have a whole team that can get that set up. We have friends that go to those events.
Just ask in the general.
Sure, yeah, ask anywhere.
Also, can I get you my LinkedIn profile later? Because
Sure, yeah, no, it's okay. My main thing is just to keep you guys on track, that's all.
Okay.
So,
What needs to be done exactly with it? Just updated from the resume feedback?
yeah, resume feedback and the LinkedIn presentation. And that presentation is right here too. It's pinned here. So if you want to review that, you can. And then, yeah.
I never seen that, so I don't. I need to.